Why is one generation inferior in the big family? In fact, this has a lot to do with the environment in which they live. The older generation was born in a reckless way. Every meal was spent with fate, and every penny was earned with fate. Therefore, in that era, no one was mediocre who was able to make a family business. Generations can be said to be elites. But when they lay a piece of land and their son was born, he had already lived a life of adequate food and clothing. With adequate food and clothing, they didn't need to work hard and did not need to fight their lives, so the wolf nature was naturally much weaker. By the time their grandson was born, they were already born with the golden key. Let alone let them go out and fight hard. For this second-generation ancestor born with the golden key, let him go to bed early and wake up every day. Unable to realize the extravagant hope, what kind of fighting spirit can be expected in them? What bloody wolf nature is there? Those born in the wild and risking their lives to prey and grow are real wolves. Born in a zoo, there are wolves that eat meat every day when they open eyes. In terms of blood, it may not be as good as a wild dog on the side of the road. Ragnar also knew that his abilities were much worse than his father, and he knew that his son was much worse than himself, so in this situation, he felt an unprecedented sense of loneliness. This kind of loneliness is isolation and helplessness. He feels that no one in the world can help, and the only dad who can help him has also suffered a stroke and coma. Just as he sighed with emotion, his brother, Dawson, stepped in and blurted out, "Brother, you asked me to bring the family from Orus Hill. I have brought them." Ragnar nodded and asked, "Where are they now?" Dawson said, "People are in the living room." Ragnar said, "Okay. I'll go and meet them first, you go and call Horiah over." "Okay, brother." Dawson nodded hastily, and stepped to find Horiah. Ragnar lit a cigar, and while smoking it, he walked out of his study and walked to the living room. In the living room, the 4 members of the Wilson family were waiting nervously. Seeing Ragnar come out, all 4 of them are bright, and each of them has flattery written on their faces. As the head of the family, Mrs. Wilson immediately greeted him and said with a smile on her face, "Oh, Mr. Ragnar, I used to see you on TV. I finally saw you today. I didn't expect you to be better than TV. The more generous." Ragnar nodded blankly. He naturally wouldn't take the compliments of an lady seriously. So he said lightly, "I let Dawson take you over for 2 purposes." Old Mrs. Wilson quickly said, "Mr. Ragnar, what do you want or what you want to tell us, just say it." Ragnar nodded and said, "The first purpose is to let you meet someone. The second purpose is to help me deal with someone." The old Mrs. Wilson knew very well that the Wu family was a life-saving straw given to the Wilson family from heaven. In the past, the Wilson family wanted to be a dog for the big family, but the big family simply didn't look down on it. But now it is different. Now the Wilson family has the opportunity to be a dog for the Wu family. This is a rare opportunity in a lifetime. So she hurriedly flattered, "Mr. Ragnar, everything in the Wilson family is based on head. We will see whom you let us see, we will deal with whom you let us want to deal with." As she was talking, Dawson brought Horiah over. Ragnar pointed to Horiah and said to the Wilson family 4, "I want you to meet her." The 4 of the Wilson family followed the direction of his fingers and saw that it was Horiah. Everyone's expression became extremely ugly. Noah was furious in an instant, and gritted his teeth and cursed, "Horiah, you shameless frame, I must beat you to death today." During this time, Noah hated Horiah deeply. After all, for a man, there is nothing more painful for him than the betrayal of his beloved woman. When Horiah disappeared, Noah was brought into the rhythm by Charlie, so confused that Horiah really eloped with some boy. In addition, all the money in the family was with him at the time, so he was even more angry with Horiah. After so many days and nights, every time he thinks of Horiah, he wants to catch her and beat her to death. But he also knew that since Horiah ran away with the money, he would never be able to meet her again in this life, and it was even possible that she took the money and fled abroad. But he never expected that he would meet Horiah, whom he hated so deeply, in the mansion of Wu's family inn with Ragnar today. So he rushed towards Horiah almost without thinking, stretched out his hand and slapped her face severely, and slapped her to the ground. After a slap was passed, Noah pointed at her furiously and said, "Okay, you bitch, you dare to come back. Where the hell did you take my money? Do you know it's because of you, how miserable the family is now?" Horiah was beaten up. She didn't expect that her husband Noah, who she was thinking about day and night, would slap her severely when they meet. Her leg was still a little lame, she could only struggle, trying to crawl open her mouth and blurt out and shouted, "Noah, what are you hitting me for? What are you doing?" Noah gritted his teeth and cursed, "I not only want to beat you, I want to kill you. How dare you use my money to raise a little white face, and you didn't leave a single cent for me, FCK you so cruel." Horiah screamed and blurted out, "Noah, what are you farting? When did I take care of the little white face? The Lady Wilson was cheated by Charlie." "What?" Noah frowned. "What does this matter have to do with Charlie?" Horiah thought of the torture she had suffered for many days, and suddenly burst into tears. "Have you forgotten what we were going to do for Elaine?" Noah nodded. "Of course I won't forget." Horiah cried and said, "I had done almost the same thing as Leanne. But the bastard Charlie suddenly rushed over, and then he took someone to beat us up and forced me to all the money in the bank card was donated, and then all of us were sent to the black coal mine to dig coal." Speaking of which, Horiah was already in tears.